And now how to make a biofilter for your fish tank that's a damn sight better than anything available in the retail market. Take a juice container, cut the bottom off, leave the cap up on top, and through that neck of the bottle, arrange a inlet fitting for a hose that will match the hose diameter coming out of your water pump. This will require a small submersible pump. Invert that container you've made with the nozzle on it and fill it with bio beads. Put that down in there. Nice little apartment buildings for bacteria. Porous little beads where the good bacteria that are going to eat the fish waste can live. Invert what you've just made into a slightly larger juice container off of which you cut the top. Like so. The space in between the two containers, this annulus, if you will, this little gap in there now receives an air hose, or maybe 3. I have a large capacity air pump that has multiple outputs. Take that arrangement you made and line up your air tubing such that the tubes are going to want to lean toward the center line of the device. Get them so that they are reaching the bottom of the device through that annulus, like so. 3 airline tubes positioned more or less under the bio beads. Take the discharge from your pump and affix it to the inlet of the device. Now I'm going to flip the pump on just so that we can see how much flow is going to come out of this. The flow is going to come out, course over the bio beads, and exit through the annulus. Okay. Chamber's filling up. It's reached the top of the annulus. And that's how much water the pump is pushing through. Not a big pump, but it's enough to circulate the contents of the tank over the bio beads, which is exactly what we want. We want the contents of the tank to be in contact with the bio beads. Now, in order to keep the bio beads happy, you can see that airspace in there is allowing the bio beads to breathe, but we're going to add fresh air. I'm going to flip on the air pump. Bubbles begin to come out and displace the water that's up around the bio beads, displace the excess water out until an airspace is created in which the bio beads are sitting. It gets all the way down to the bottom of the annulus. I'm going to turn the pump up now. As a result, any excess air makes its way out the annulus along with the exiting water. There's going to be a tendency for air to rise back up to fight the incoming water, and if the pump is shut off, or if other strange things in plumbing happen, the pump may get airbound, because what you're doing is you're shoving water, and you're encouraging the water to go back up through the hose, and shove its way back into the body of the pump. Well, that wouldn't be good. The pump is going to shut down because it's going to bind up and be full of air. You don't want an air-bound pump. So, what you have to do in order to make this work is, here's the pump. The pump is occupying this little strainer bag, courtesy of a perfume company, I guess. These things are available all over the place. Strainer bags are very useful. Keep the gunk out of your pump. Well, the pump is pumping up into this column, and there's a splitter here. This leg of the splitter rises into the air about 4 feet above the tank and is clipped up there. And it's just open into space. It's just empty hose. Well, the pump doesn't have the power to pump water all the way up there. It can only provide enough head for the water level to rise about 3 feet above the tank. So out of range of the camera, way up this hose, about 3 feet over the tank, is the level in the hose. And it's just hanging out up there. But with that much weight in a column of water, everything coming out of the pump, the equivalent of everything coming out of the pump, is now free to flow over the biobeads and make its way out the annulus. If any air bubbles should tend to fight their way back up this tubing and make their way toward the pump, they won't be able to go down to the pump. They're going to stay light in the tubing, and they're going to instead rise up that vertical leg of tubing, and they're going to dissipate out the top of that tubing. That will keep the pump from getting airbound. I've set this up originally, and I had bubbles coming back out of the pump on days where the flow of the air had managed to overcome the flow of the water pump. Anyway, that's the device. Here's what it does. This provides a buffer zone of really attractive living room, Lebensraum for those bacteriological colonies that are occupying the biobeads. As the fish waste or dead plant matter, or even perhaps a dead fish, as those levels of toxins change in the tank, the bacteriological colony can expand and fall back in order to eat up that waste and keep the toxin level in the tank low enough so that the fish will survive. It's very hard to maintain biological filtration on a small tank. Under 25 gallons, it can be pretty difficult. I've got a 26-gallon tank that I had actually a good time filtering, and partly because every place I've got biobeads, I shove air on them. So this is probably the most concentrated scheme I've come up with in order to create not biobeads underwater, not biobeads residing in the tank of some filter somewhere, and some hang-on back filter or in a canister off dwelling outside the tank, right? But biobeads in an airspace. That airspace is being kept continually damp by the flow of tank water over it, which is in contact with the bacteria, so toxins are being washed onto the biobeads where they can be munched on by the bacteria, and it's being continually oxygenated by the airline tubing, right? This is the right way to do it. Everything else you have seen pretty much on the retail market isn't right. I mean, you can't just take a biobead, throw it into the bottom of the tank and say bacteria will live on that. The biobead really has to be out in air, and it has to be damp, and it has to have flow coming over it so that the tank water can visit it, and it also has to be oxygenated. Instead of doing that outside of the tank, just do it in the tank. That's why you don't have to worry about the leakage out of this thing. You just stick this, you can cover it in a black sleeve or something and tuck it away in some back part of the tank. And there it'll sit, just happy. That's the right way to do it. It's a hell of a lot better than anything you're going to buy in a store right now. Just wait. They'll start making this and try to make lots of money. But you saw how easy it was to do. Just do this and keep your fish happy.